We started this journey 2 years ago in terms of trying to identify what is the process for getting these boys living together. And quite honestly, identifying and buying the house is the easy bit.
G'day, I'm Debra Caldow. Welcome to the Red Giraffe Solutions Expanding Worlds podcast, where we aim to support you as you help your young person with additional needs plan for their future. A future where they're safe, secure, and live a rewarding and fulfilling life. From around the world, I share stories and I share solutions from people making this possible right now. I'm a parent of a young person with additional needs, so I understand the challenges. Many of the people I've interviewed on this podcast have already helped me design a better future for my daughter, and I hope that they might help you as well to imagine what's possible for your young person. This podcast is made possible by Red Giraffe Solutions, which is a project I'm proud to be part of, supporting families to build a better future for their children. We now have available at Red Giraffe Solutions an online course called Independent Cooking Made Easy. This is a new and unique approach we developed when we realised traditional cooking techniques and recipes were never going to enable our daughter to cook without some support or supervision. It's a safe, simple system that uses no more than 5 ingredients, has no weighing, cutting or chopping, and no lifting of heavy dishes. Each of the 16 recipes in the course includes a step-by-step video of our daughter making the meal, plus a visual recipe card. We developed this for our daughter to solve her challenges with cooking, and every recipe in the course she can and does genuinely cook for herself. You can find a link to the course in this episode's show notes. Housing is one of the key topics that families need to address when it comes to planning the future, because it does end up being one of the biggest parts of answering that question we all ask ourselves: what happens when we're no longer around? And of course, as our children get older, we realise that a lot of the options out there simply aren't fit for purpose, and that applies to wherever you live in the world. So I'm always happy to share housing ideas that just might be the solution that someone's been looking for. And in this week's episode, which is part 2 of my conversation with Kay Laidler, I'm doing just that. Kay is working with other families on creating a housing solution that will work for her son Tobias, along with 2 other young men. There's a lot of practical information in here as Kay shares the process they've been through. So let's hear more from Kay. Can we talk a little bit more then about the housing solution that you're working on right now?
I guess we're quite lucky in that Tobias has already identified a few of his mates who he's grown up with, that it's just a natural progression. His friendships are really tight bonds now as they've got older. So it would make sense actually to have these young boys living together now. I have seen situations before where people have put their young special needs adults together, and I think the lesson learned is you can't do that. It's me putting me in with a load of strangers. Not everyone gets on, so I think there has to be that natural bond anyway, otherwise it won't work. So now we've identified those people, we've identified the house. In fact, the house has been bought and it's very close by. It's ideal, 4-bedroom house, so there's room for 3 young adults plus a carer. And we're thinking to start with, that carer would need to be full-time. But over a period of time, we'd like to think that we get to the point where the boys would be independent enough that they would only need people there in the evening and then early in the morning to make sure that they're breakfasted properly and they're out to work, or they know what they're doing for their day. And the perfect scenario is that we're only about 5 minutes away. One of the other parents is only 5 minutes away as well. But you've got a slight anomaly in that one of the parents is actually out of borough. And of course, by being out of borough, that comes with its own issues around benefits. That's the big one. I'm learning as we go along, but bearing in mind we started this journey 2 years ago in terms of trying to identify what we would need to do, what is the process for getting these boys living together under one roof. And quite honestly, identifying and buying the house is the easy bit.
Is that because of the bureaucracy of actually, for example, getting the funding for payment for their rent?
That's the issue. So 2 years ago, I started this journey by finding out who are the people that are responsible within the borough for housing, and then finding out what benefits, because we all have different benefits. Obviously, it's a very personal thing depending on the individual's needs. And of course, what borough you're located in. And the difference of knowledge and feedback that you get is incredible. Total lack of common theme. So depending on who you speak to and what day of the week it is, you'll get a different answer.
So do you think that with housing, what often happens is and I don't want to speak for any sort of government body, but are they just preferring that our children stay with us? Is that easier, or are they preferring that they go into somewhere that they've already got?
It feels that way because you would think you're actually doing them a favour, because if you're identifying the house for your young people to live in, that must be a huge weight off of the local authorities' shoulders, because that's one less thing that they have to think about. But the process is so complicated, it's hard to imagine that they really do want us doing this for them. Once I found the person who's responsible for housing, it's taken me really 18 months, 2 years to get them really fully engaged. And again, more and more families I'm speaking to are saying, please let me know how you get on, because what you're now doing is exactly what I want to do. But the benefits is really tricky one. And already what we're encountering is that 2 of us that are located in one borough, but the one that's out of borough is being told something completely different to what we're being told. To the point where they're saying, you're not going to get any of those benefits until your young person moves into the borough in which this property is located. And yet the current borough that we're in, where the property is located, those guys are saying, no, you can't come and live in this house until you have the benefits in place. Where do you start with that one? What we have done is I have now engaged with MenCap, who can act on our behalf in an independent basis. So instead of us taking on the fight and not really knowing where we go with this, MenCap has said, you know what, come to us. We will review each young person's benefits. We then have the capacity that we can contact the borough on your behalf, because we actually know what you should have. But please bear in mind, we are not legal consultants. We are just here in an independent capacity to support you and share with you our knowledge of what we believe you should be given. But each one of these young people will need to have a care assessment done. That will then decide what their current level of needs are. That then gets put into a care plan. That care plan then needs to be looked at, all 3 of them in their entirety, to then decide what combined care package they're entitled to. And then it's down to us to go and identify and find our own care provider. So the local authority have given me a list of suggested care providers. They've told me what a standard template of care provision looks like. I then need to come up with my own questions of what I would ask them to get a feel for how they would look after our young people. And to be fair, the local authority have said, we're quite happy to sit on that interview if you would like, just to support you and give you a bit of guidance through it, but it is down to you at the end of the day.
So this is almost like about layers of funding then, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's one bit for the housing and then one bit for the care, and they don't really connect.
Exactly that, yeah. All we really want to do is put our kids together in a safe, happy environment so that they can have the care they need, they can have the activities that they can plug into, and employability. And yet it would appear that we have to go through huge amounts of red tape before we get there. We're very close, us mums, which helps. Obviously, the kids are close as well. So we're now in the process of having regular meetings, because we can see that if we don't start and really put a game plan together, it's like doing a business presentation. So you're putting dates in where we want to achieve certain goals and keep this moving until our date, where we've actually even set a date. And then once we've done that, it has to be a very slow integration, because you're dealing with 3 young adults that have their own anxieties. They're obviously very close to their families, and this is a massive step. So we're already talking about what does that transition look like. So there's an awful lot that needs to be done, but we have to start now, because if we don't keep this train moving, it will slip back at a rate of knots.
How many years do you think before the three young men will be living in the house,
we're
ignoring their parents, out partying every night.
Absolutely. Which, yeah, quite right. That's where we want to be. We are looking at 2026.
And how long have you been going at this?
We started the process 2 years ago. Okay, from literally a piece of paper, not having the house, not understanding what it's going to look like. But now we're on the train. We've really got focus, and that's where you have to be.
What kind of things do Tobias and his friends, what do they talk about and think about? Are they
they're
really
so
keen?
Excited. So in fact, interesting enough, we had to dampen the excitement because with our boys anyway, it's as soon as you say something, it's happening, and it's you could be left disappointed at any point in time during this journey. So it's more to do with, look boys, this is where we're thinking. How would you feel? What do you want to do? So more putting it out there, because I need to make sure that all three of them have the same goals and the same focus. And they were like, oh yeah, we want to live together and we want to do this and do that. They're all very ambitious boys with big plans, which is really exciting. Us families have met together. We spend a lot of time together. So we're really building up that bond, that relationship. And now we have told them that the house exists. They've been around the house. They're all happy with it. They've seen it. It's tangible. So it's all very exciting, but if you gave them the chance, they would be in there tomorrow.
When you're talking about having someone in there, and I know you used the word carer, but I think it's more of a supporter.
Absolutely,
worker, isn't it?
You're right.
What kind of role will they play? What kind of things will young men be doing for themselves, and what kind of things will the support person be doing? Is that part of the aim as well, as they become more independent at cooking and all those kind of things?
Absolutely, yes. All three of them go to a charity called Casper. Casper is amazing. So they actually focus on independent living skills, but as part of a social club environment. So all the kids are learning how to cook. So they're picking them up naturally just from going to these various events. They don't need their personal hygiene dealt with. The only thing that they would need, certainly in Tobias's case, is if he runs a bath, he would leave the taps on. So it's things like that. It's keeping them on task. Cooking, absolutely. Again, it's more to do with the health and safety side of things, remembering it's a hot oven, you need oven gloves to take things to and from the oven, and just generally just making sure they keep on target. If you need to be somewhere for a certain time, if you've got a job and you have to be there at 9 a.m, you need to make sure you're up at a good time and just keep them on track. That's the main thing, really. And I think over a period of time, I'd like to think that actually that support can be retracted to a time when they might only need it in an evening to make sure that they've got their evening meal prepared and they've done it properly and safely, and that's it.
Can I ask a couple of practical questions about the house then? How will things like the bills get paid and that kind of thing?
So the idea is that they all have housing benefits, and that will effectively pay for their rent, including bills and things like that. But again, part of the support system will be budgeting. That is a real big part of it, and it's certainly part of the process we've got to go through still, is once we understand what our care package and the housing benefit and all those benefits play out, direct payments, that's when we actually need to sit down and say, what does this all look like? What are the costs and how much are we left with? Because their activities as well, that all comes at a price. And whilst some of it is funded, there's a huge amount of it that they actually has to come out of their own personal budgets. So again, it's a learning curve, and I don't think I've got the answers to all of it at the moment.
I don't want to be a devil's advocate, but have you talked about the fact that maybe for one person it won't be the right thing and they want to go back home?
It's an interesting one. We haven't. And actually we probably should start thinking about what if scenarios, because at the moment we're all so positive and going down this road, and the kids are just so excited, and this bond of being together and it working, it's probably something, absolutely you're right. We need to look at what ifs. What if one of the kids finds their dream young lady and decides that they want their own home? Haven't really thought about what would happen then, if I'm being absolutely honest.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question as well. What happens if someone decides that nothing's permanent?
No.
If you think about life, you move houses, you move jobs, you do all those things. And I sometimes think that people make an assumption about our young people that once they've got a job, they'll never leave it. once they live here they'll never leave, and that's just an incorrect assumption because people should grow and they should change.
Absolutely.
And you've already made a really good point that I think that it's almost the scenario happens a lot with people, isn't it? They get a bit of independence and suddenly they want more, and they think actually there's all these things I can do and I don't need that support, and those are scenarios that we all have to think about. But I do understand why you're all very fixated on what you're doing because it's so hard, and it shouldn't be hard. Can I ask, in the conversations that you've had with the authorities, the bureaucracy, if that's a better way of putting it, have you ever said to them, look guys, this is going to save you money?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm right from the beginning. I don't understand. Where's the problem? Where's the issue? I'm not getting it. Surely this is doing you the most incredible favour here. And it goes quiet. If I'm being absolutely honest, no one has ever come back and delivered the answer to that statement. I have no idea.
Can you have a guess about why they wouldn't?
Lack of control, maybe. Maybe they'll end up with a lack of funding if they see that other people are doing it. Generally, there'll be some form of funding issue that's sitting behind it, if I'm being honest.
After listening to Kay, it's clear that there are plenty of hoops to jump through, but that progress comes with persistence. I also think that a couple of the issues that Kay raised around independent living are worth thinking about in terms of the increased role technology will play in helping our young people when they live in homes of their own. My daughter certainly finds things like cooking and cleaning made much easier by utilising technology. And of course, safety in the home is one of the main things that technology can be applied towards. But of course, technology isn't much use when it comes to some of the bureaucratic issues that Kay raised. That part is a work in progress for her and for all of us. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope that the stories and solutions shared on here help you as you support your young person to create their future. If you know anyone who would find the ideas useful, please share the podcast with them. To support the podcast, please consider finding out more about the Independent Cooking Made Easy online course. It's a safe, simple system that works. There are links to the course in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn at Debra Caldow. I'd love to have a conversation with you on any of the topics we all care about. Bye for now.